Here we go, my review of A New Dawn. If you don't know, A New Dawn is the first canon Star Wars novel. Disney, I guess they didn't want the writers to feel conflicted when writing Episode 7 because there's all these novels about what happens after Episode 6. So they basically said they could have made certain things canon, certain things not, just because some stuff works fine. But I guess to simplify things, Disney just said, okay, everything with the exception of Clone Wars is not canon. Everything else moving forward is canon. And this is our first canon novel. It is A New Dawn. It is set sometime before the events of Rebels, and it mainly is the story of how Kanan and Hera met each other and this job they did together. And so you're probably wondering, what did I think of it? I mean, there was some stuff I liked, but at the end of the day, I really didn't feel like for such an important novel that's supposed to set up a new Star Wars TV show that is replacing the Clone Wars, which should not have been canceled in the first place, and also the first canon novel. It was really underwhelming. I mean, there was some cool stuff in there. I did like Kanan. I thought he was somewhat of an interesting character. I did enjoy his backstory and a bit of his arc and his moral dilemma. It could have been fleshed out a bit more, but there was something there, and hopefully the show will flesh that out a bit more, because he could potentially be an interesting character. This Han Solo Jedi-ish hybrid with this interesting backstory of Order 66, and confused as to what it means to be a Jedi. Does he consider himself a Jedi? Stuff like that. Vidian was kind of an interesting villain, but that's about it. The story there wasn't much. It was it wasn't a bad story, it's just, it felt a little generic, and mainly it just felt a little too simplified. Like, it's weird, because on one end it felt very geared towards kids. I mean, the opening starts out, you have a young Kanan saying, "Obi-Wan, could the beacon be used to warn Jedi to stay away from the temple?" And then you have, like, this really dark stuff, like people getting brutally murdered, references to sex and alcohol. So I'm a little confused who this novel's written for. At the end of the day, it feels like it's written for a younger audience, which has me a little worried about Rebels, since everything I've seen so far of Rebels just has me convinced it's a dumb little kid show, which is the complete opposite. Well, Clone Wars started out that way, but it evolved, whereas Rebels, Filoni's going out of his way to say it's not going to be as dark as Clone Wars. So that worries me. I didn't really care for the characters much. The biggest offender for me is Hera, because she's just the generic good character, and I feel like they could have fleshed her out more. Like, why is she fighting the Emperor? What happened to her personally that is making her go around trying to assemble this team of rebels to fight the Empire? Like, I never really understand her motivation. She needed a backstory, and unfortunately this novel didn't give it to her. Hopefully, either in a future novel or in the show at some point, they will explain her backstory, but here there's like nothing. I didn't really care much for Zeluna. I found her a tad annoying, along with Skelly. I really didn't like him, but at least the book was he was intentionally annoying, and that's pretty much all I have to say on the book. It wasn't really anything special, and kind of a waste of time. When I should be catching up on Game of Thrones, I took time to read this. I mean, I'd only recommend this if you are an absolute diehard Star Wars fan. Like, if you feel like you need to read this, then I won't stop you. But if you're feel like you need to read this to get Rebels, you won't. Really doesn't feel like it adds that much. You do learn a bit more about Kanan, and how he and Hera met, but there's nothing too important in here. Nothing too interesting. It's just a fun little adventure that just explains why two characters meet, and unfortunately we are now stuck with this as canon. Why couldn't the Force Unleashed one be canon? The second one, screwed the second one. I would have loved the first one to just be canon. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, they aren't, I get why there's nothing important in this novel. They don't want to make people feel like they need to read this novel to get the show. But at the same time, it's like, You could have done a bit more to flesh out the characters, I feel like. But at the end of the day, there's nothing really that special in there. Like, I really would not recommend this to anyone except kids and anyone who's just... Yeah, just mainly kids. I mean, like, there's no... I mean, only pick this up if you feel like you need to read it. Like, unless either you feel like you need to read it, or if you're a kid, this is the only two reasons why you should pick this novel up. I would not recommend it otherwise. This isn't like Son of Dathomir, where it's amazing, and I just recommend picking it up if you're a diehard Star Wars fan. I am curious, though, to see if they're going to do more novels like this. If, like, next year we're going to get a novel explaining how they met Zeb, or Sabine, or Chopper, or something like that. But yeah. So that's my review of this. I'm going to give it a 6.5. It had some interesting elements, but nothing really special. And yeah, not worth it, though. Although, it does look nice. So, Star Wars: A New Dawn. Have you read it? And what are your thoughts on it? Do you like it, or are you like me? It's like, eh. Please comment and let me know. And... this is JStar260, and hopefully the Tarkin novel will be better than this. Until then, this is JStar260, and may the Force be with you.